What you want to do is two things. One is to be very conscious of feeling that vital force, feeling that energy flowing through your psychic system. So really feeling that energy as it comes down through the heart and to the navel and rising back up. Then you want to really focus on your heart and just be aware of your breath, but mostly be aware of center, right? Of just feeling the center of your heart and feeling that center as an openness, not as a chakra or this or that, but simply as an openness that you can feel that you're breathing into and out, and at some point the breath is not really exactly part of the equation, but you can breathe into that, right? So you're really focusing your awareness on that heart and the stillness and the center there. And in a sense, what you're doing is then directing your energy towards that bindu point, right? The bindu point is a single point that has no boundary. So it's not like you find a little spot and is it big, is it little, it's both, right? So for now, maybe don't think so much about trying to find the bindu point, is to find the openness, right? And to find the center of that openness. And then in the center of that openness, once you're adept or comfortable feeling that, then you can, as you just tune in, you'll find the center, the still point of that whole sense of openness, right? And you can do that, of course, during your meditation and even during your day, right? You really want to be aware of your heart during your day. Be aware of being open, of having, not being open-hearted, having an open heart. Subtle difference, right? Right? But really feeling your heart open. And by becoming aware of that, what we're doing is consistently channeling the energy of our mind, the energy of our emotion, the energy of the challenge of meeting diversity back into that center, back into that center. We're folding it in and we're folding it in. And what we're doing by that is to deeply center ourselves inside, to connect to our deepest sense of ourselves, our core inside, right? And then once we're really established that, then we very easily see when our mind starts to go off, see when our emotions start to grab us. And instead of engaging in that, we breathe back into that openness. We don't allow the contraction, we don't allow the projection, right? We breathe back into that openness. And so in a sense, Rudy talked a lot about tests, and so that's the test. When we find that center, first of all, if you haven't found it, keep looking, right? But particularly when you begin to really establish yourself there, then the real test is, are you capable and willing to stay in that center? It becomes the discipline of our consciousness. Perpetually breathe back in, focus back in. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about finding and remaining in center, right? And if we're not able to do that in the course of our day, the course of our days, in the course of our life, we'll never find that bindu point, that simple, still point from which all of life arises, right? The stillness of consciousness. How does a lotus ever open up if the energy, the stem, doesn't create it, support it, energize it, and give it the energy to blossom? So feeling that flow, being centered in your heart, feeling that flow, feeling that open and your psychic capacity, and this flow matures into the expansion of that center in the top of the head, wherever you decide it is, right? Right? You don't just, open a box, put a little, lotus on top of your head. Oh, here it is. It blossoms. Where does the flower come from? It doesn't just magically appear. It buds, and it forms, and then it blossoms. And the amazing thing, I never knew this until a few years ago, the flower grows. Who's ever heard of a flower growing? I thought it just there was big, there was, boom. You see these flowers, and it's little bitty, and then the next thing you know, it's this huge flower, right? That's the flowering of our own consciousness. But it doesn't just appear, right? The energy of the plant is fed into its creation. It's fed into the expression of itself, expressing the beauty of its own joy in its own life. This is what it does. Orchids are orchids because they make beautiful flowers. If it was just a little stalk there, we'd think, oh, how ugly. But before it blossoms, it's just a stalk, right? So don't confuse one or the other, right? It's not one or the other. And it's not an approach, right? It's the connection to our life force and the channeling it to its source. From that open heart, we can extend, using the flow of energy, using that vital force, extend into the center of the head, into the crown, and open and expand higher centers of consciousness, higher chakras, right? In the whole process, you never lose contact with the flow or the simple stillness of your heart. Is then the heart expanding. Nityananda called it the heart space. He was talking about your heart, the heart of you as an individual, right? The center of the head and the top of the head, and the space above the head, is one heart space, one sacred space. Go there and roam, right? That's what we're attempting to do. And in that process of truly absorbing our life force, instead of having it spilled out of us like a whole bucket with holes in it, we are absorbing our life force and allowing it to reach into the deepest core of ourselves, to find the center of the Sushumna, where it can rise and nourish and allow that consciousness to bud in us and to flower.